This is a steal for the Houston Rockets as a new trade report on Giannis Antetokounmpo has come out involving Houston, but there is now a third team in the mix, and the trade for the Rockets has gotten so much sweeter. Welcome into Rockets Digest. I'm your host, Jace Andrews, and I appreciate you joining us. We've gotten a lot of new viewers, yet you're not subscribing. Over 96% of people who are watching these videos, well, they're not subscribed. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. It's free, and you're going to get Houston Rockets content on your page every single day involving trade news like this, new reports, obviously talk about Fred VanVleet and his contract. There's a lot that's going to happen for the Houston Rockets this offseason, and I want you to be a part of the movement here. We're going to talk about it all. And let's talk about Giannis Antetokounmpo, because what an offseason this is going to be for the Milwaukee Bucks in general. But when you add in the Rockets and how they are able to really provide any asset that the Bucks would ever so slightly ask for, it makes for a very interesting time for the Rockets to go out and make a big move for a guy like Giannis Antetokounmpo, especially with the questions after the early exit in the postseason. Now, I mentioned there is now a third team involved in this trade, and that's kind of where we go on with this report. See, the Rockets obviously have all the pieces to make this deal, but the Bucks also could want pieces from another team because the New Orleans Pelicans have pick swaps from the Milwaukee Bucks in the first round in 2026 and 2027 in what was a previous trade. So, in some ways, the Bucks could be looking for a potential Giannis deal to reel in New Orleans a bit. Now, the Pelicans, they had a very tough year, 21-61, and to be quite honest, Zion, who is a young star, has been injury prone, and at this point is not going to be a proper piece for what the Pelicans are building into the future now. And I think Williamson could be a good asset that could be involved in this trade in some way to go back to the Bucks to make it a little bit easier for them to give up Giannis, because that's going to be a hard thing for them to do. I do think Giannis gets traded this offseason, but when you're talking about a guy who is homegrown, a Finals MVP, two-time MVP, and a guy who has brought a championship to that city, it's going to be very hard for the team, the organization, and more importantly, the fans to let him go. So the package has to be very, very sweet for them. And it is a very sweet package for so many different reasons. And let's just go right to the trade here. The Pelicans are in this, the Bucks are in this, and the Rockets are in this, and here are the full trade details. The Pelicans in this trade would get Fred VanVleet from the Rockets, Jabari Smith Jr. from the Rockets, Reed Sheppard from the Rockets, a 2027 first-round pick via Phoenix, but that is in possession of Houston right now, a 2027 second-round pick, which is also in the possession of Houston right now, and then a 2028 second-round pick, which again is also via Houston. Now, the Bucks in this situation, they do get Zion Williamson, Jalen Green, Kelly Olynyk, a 2026 and 2027 first-round picks, the picks that they originally traded to New Orleans, they get them back, and they also get a first-round pick from Houston, which is top 5 protected. So if Houston were to trade for Giannis, he gets injured, whatever, the sky comes crashing down, Houston could still, in theory, get that pick back. The Rockets in this get Giannis Antetokounmpo, and you add in Kyle Kuzma in this trade to kind of boost this win-now window. And before we go any further, I have to ask you, what do you think about this trade? Is this something that you'd like to see? Is this an overpay? Is this way too much to give up for Giannis? Do you even want Giannis? I'm looking at all the comments. There's a lot more to look at now, and I'm very happy about that. But get down there and let me know what you think about this trade, because I find it so very intriguing, and I'll give you my full take on it in just a moment. But I do want to kind of go into some quotes talking about a lot of stuff. So obviously Giannis is a very, very good player. 30 points per game, 11.9 rebounds. He's averaging a double-double this year. And he was the top scorer in the first round and the top rebounder in the first round, which is, first of all, a scorer, which is what the Rockets need, and a rebounder, which is what the Rockets' identity is. And you know my take on this if you watched the channel for the past little bit. I think Giannis fits in well with this Houston Rockets team. But the deal has to be right, because this team is so young and has a lot of good years ahead of them. But I understand there is a win-now window, and I know the Rockets want to capitalize on that in really any way possible. And so, for that reason, there's a lot of things that really could shake up the NBA this offseason with Houston, as they want to win now. That's what they want to do. And so this is kind of what we go into with more in the article, saying, quote here, the Houston Rockets have the chance to shake up the NBA this offseason, being involved in trade rumors for Milwaukee Bucks superstar Giannis Antetokounmpo. Again, the Bucks could be looking to move on from their homegrown star after back-to-back first-round exits, end quote. This coming from Jed Katz on Rockets SI. Again, the Rockets have the assets necessary to make a trade happen for Giannis, for KD, for Booker, for Ja Morant, for pretty much anybody in the league. The Rockets have the assets necessary. The bigger thing that is surrounding that, though, is the Rockets are also a young team. Rafael Stone talked about wanting this team to stay pretty much together throughout the next 4 or 5 years. You make this trade, that 100% blows up in what the Rockets are trying to keep going in so many aspects. But I think when you look at this trade details, something that gets lost, and I think the reason why this one is a little bit more sweeter, is because you really dive into that win now window. And don't get me wrong, I think Giannis is already a move that makes you a win now team. But you add on Kyle Kuzma when you're getting rid of Fred VanVleet. Obviously, kind of interesting on that quick note on Fred VanVleet. Technically, he can be traded on draft night. Now, the contract extension has been pushed out till June 29th because it's a team option. So technically, the Rockets could trade him before they get to that contract extension. So that is a very key detail in all of this. But anyways, back to the trade here. You also get Kyle Kuzma in this trade. And while I don't think he's going to be a push-the-needle player, I also think he is somebody that should not be lost. He's 14.8 averaging in points per game this past year. He's still only 29 years old, and for lack of a better term, he was supposed to be a superstar in this league. And I still think he has potential to come out and play very well. I mean, when you talk about this Bucks season, obviously so many things went wrong, and you have another first-round exit for the second year in a row. You have what you think is your homegrown Finals MVP, two-time MVP that's going to lead you into some sort of winning era again. And you get Damian Lillard, and then it doesn't happen, and the season kind of just falls to the wayside. So getting rid of Kyle Kuzma for them is kind of an obvious choice. But for the Rockets, it makes it a little bit easier to trade off some of your younger pieces and really dive into what is a win now window, as quoted by Ime Udoka and Rafael Stone. And there's so many things that, we can sit here and talk about it all day. Well, what are we going to do with, we like Reed Sheppard. We like Kim Whitmore. We think that they're going to be a good tandem to have in the future. And I have to agree. You keep Cam Whitmore in this trade. And I honestly am kind of split between who I believe is the better player between the two young stars, or I call them young stars, two young prospects in Reed Sheppard and Cam Whitmore. But I want to continue on this report. Here's what the Rockets would give up when it's all said and done. Fred VanVleet, Jalen Green, Jabari Smith Jr., Reed Sheppard, a first-round pick in 2027 that is technically belonging to Phoenix, but obviously is still with the Rockets, a 2027 second-round pick, that's Memphis's, a 2028 second-round pick, that's Houston's, a 2028 first-round pick, that is the Rockets, for Giannis and Kyle Kuzma. And that's a lot. I'm not going to lie. When you put it in that little, that light, and you see how many of the assets they are going to give up for Kuzma and for Giannis, it's hard to really put a value to that, and that the Fred VanVleet, if he does return, he's still a very good player for this Rockets team. He is a guy who can really, again, have that veteran presence. And he's won a championship. So is Giannis. You do keep a pretty decent young core here. You keep Alperen Şengün. You keep Amen Thompson. You're going to be able to keep a lottery pick this year from the Phoenix Suns. So, overall, you're keeping a very good amount of your, I'm going to say core, because if you think about the core of the Houston Rockets, it's Alperen Şengün, Amen Thompson, and to some degree Jalen Green as well, obviously with the level he has been playing at in the regular season. Obviously, the first postseason wasn't great. He's the first one to say that. He literally said so many times, I played like bad word. We'll just put it that way. He did not. He knows he did not play well, and he's going to play better in the future postseasons that the Rockets will have. It's just a matter of if the Rockets are going to keep him around. So, again, the Giannis Antetokounmpo trade is still going to have some lingering time before it, if it does happen, before it happens. The Rockets have some decisions to make, though, and Rafael Stone has talked about continuality, and I honestly believe that the likelihood of making a big trade is probably a little bit less than it was about a month ago. I think when the Rockets were going into the postseason as the number 2 seed and had a lot of hope to, make it to the Western Conference Finals, even the Western Conference semis, there was a little bit more of a, okay, if you can get to there and you think you're a superstar away, you're going to make the trade. Whereas now, you lose in the first round, and you don't really want to make any hash movements because you do trust this team and you want to see how far they can go with just themselves. Alperen Şengün is going to be an NBA superstar. Amen Thompson is going to be a top defender in the NBA for the next 10 years. And Jalen Green is a prolific scorer. He just had a bad series against the Warriors. And again, I know that it's different teams. I know that it's different eras. But the Rockets have just been daddied, basically, by the Golden State Warriors. I mean, to put it quite frank, 5-0 are the Golden State Warriors against the Rockets in series. So it's a tough thing to, sit here and say, oh, well, the Warriors should have our number. It's different teams, but at the same time, that does have to go into it because we know sports. And that is something that was put in front of the Rockets somehow, some way. They saw it, that the Rockets do not beat the Golden State Warriors in the postseason. They saw it. And that can be a mental challenge. That can be a thing that you just run into. And, the Rockets right now, they're a team that could easily be a top team in the Western Conference next year. Either they trade for that and make themselves that way, or they're just going to use their players and grow. Because Cam Whitmore, I still believe, is a really good potential. I mean, I kind of want to pull this back up from a previous video, but Cam Whitmore was a top 5 projected pick, and the Rockets got him 20th. And while he isn't in this trade, he is being talked about in a lot of trade packages. And so it's just a question of the Rockets at this point, what is more valuable? Trading for an NBA superstar and kind of breaking up and shaking up this team and shaking up some of your future first-round picks? Or credit to a comment I saw, I forget your name, but OKC, they didn't make any hash movements. They didn't make any big trades. They lost in things that they really didn't think thought they were going to lose in. They had Shai Gilgeous, and I mean, hey, Shai is having a horrible playoffs as well. It's not being talked about as much. It's not as bad as Jalen Green's, but it's not what you expect from a MVP caliber player. Do you keep the team together? You have a bunch of first-round picks coming still, and depending on what this first-round lottery pick is, we could be talking about a very different thing. And speaking of which, as we get closer to the lottery, we're going to have more and more videos on what the projected percentages for the Rockets are for each certain selection and what I think the Rockets should do if they were to get each certain selection. So make sure you hit that subscribe button and join us for the coverage of the NBA Draft Lottery, the NBA Draft coming up. So much of the offseason is going to be even more fun than the regular season in terms of news, information, and rumors. So if there's a time to subscribe, it's now, and I want you to do me a favor. We're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers. We've gained over 200 subscribers in the past 2 days. Let's try and get to 1,000 subscribers by the end of the week. And so if you're watching this right now, you're not a subscriber, hit the subscribe button so we can get to 1,000 subscribers by the end of this week. I appreciate you, H-Town, and man, it's a fun time to be a Rockets fan because we're either going to make a big trade or we're going to be a team to be reckoned with our young talent for the next 4, 5, 6 years to come. I appreciate you watching, and for now, peace out, Rockets Nation.